on to the home of the Charlotte 49ers, Jerry Richardson Stadium, and the fans have been filling this. And the Bobcats ready to get this thing started and open the season. And he'll bring it back. Not a lot of space to be found. Good hustle by the coverage team, and they stop him at the 21. So the Charlotte 49ers offense will get the first swing of the game. And Jesse, if there is an old war horse, a real war daddy in the training facility, here he is, back to run the show again.
Well, that's a great point, and there is no substitute for experience. There is a lot of expectation for this football team and for this offense because of that guy and because of all the big stages and all the big moments he's already played through in his career. A lot of people are really excited, David, because he has seen a lot of ball.
All the ball, all the defenses, has read the emotion of being really high and really low, and so those experience, those scars, they matter. They trust in him, and everybody on this offense is looking to him.
Knew where he wanted to go with it, but couldn't find his target. It's incomplete. And the 49ers line up to punt it away. The punter going to get his first work of the afternoon. They'll put a stop to that return at about the 37-yard line. So Ohio's offense will go to work for the first time. Let's take a quick second to call out some of the impact players their coaches mentioned in meetings this week. Anything you guys heard that really resonated with you?
Yeah, I love when coaches talk about guys that bring it every single day. Like, that we can depend on them. They can get other guys lined up. They're always motivated. They're always being a great teammate. These are the guys that coaches love. And
big-time players make big plays in big games, right? These are the guys that have to play well if they're going to win games like this. It'll be interesting to see what they do today.
This senior shows some serious arm strength firing that one in for the first down. The inside handoff. Able to scrounge 3 yards out of that one somehow. It's 2nd and 7. Wants to go up top. Just too much of a rush, and down goes the quarterback just behind the midfield stripe at the 49. They'll tell you that somebody's always going to pop open, but it didn't happen in time before they got the sack.
No, it did not. And you know what? I'm going to remember this. I'm going to remember zone defense. They didn't really have an answer. They weren't ready to get rid of the football. Quarterback hesitated. I got to him and got him on the ground. Might be a good call later on in the game.
On 3rd and long, you'll need to push it downfield. Fires to the big fella. 3rd down conversions are huge, and they've got one, and they're at the 35. Looking to throw on 1st down. Got it in the middle. It's Sampson. They make the stop, but he'll have enough yardage for a 1st down. The Bobcats come to the line with a new set of downs. They go to the ground. And he was fortunate not to lose yardage on that play, able to wedge it back to the line of scrimmage. This drive facing a little adversity on 2nd and 11. And the defense holds firm. No pickup at all on that play. It'll be 3rd and long. Tight end now in motion. On 3rd and long, he's going to have to throw for it. That pass not close as he got drilled trying to deliver it, and it'll bring up 4th down. Here comes the field goal unit as they'll try to get the 3. And he kept that one just straight enough to graze inside the left upright. And with that, they break the seal on the scoring. It's 3-0. So they're lining up to kick it off after that last drive. Put a 3 spot on the board, and now the defense will try to shut them down. And he'll just take a knee, and this drive will start at the 25. They'll put this one in play. First snap of the drive from the 25. Running back searching for a hole. Tackle is made at the 28 after a pickup of 3. Got 3 on 1st down. It's 2nd and 7. Back to pass. Setting up the screen. Still on his feet at the 40. He'll be stopped and forced out of bounds. Mark it at the 47-yard line, and this offense is going to work. Looking downfield on first down. He makes the grab. Good pickup, a little bit short of the sticks. The 49ers with myriad options after that big pickup on first down. Handoff from the gun. Finds a little space. Dragged down at the 39, but he's got 5 yards, and they'll move the sticks.
That's another short.
They'll give it to him again. He's going to lose a yard on that one. Lost 1 on that last one. It's 2nd and 11. Wide receiver comes in motion. Off the play fake. Snagged out of the air. Nice gain on that play, but a little bit short of the first down. And the 49ers come to the ball trying to pick up this 3rd and short. From the gun, wants to pass. Got his man. That will be enough to move the chains and give them a first down in the red zone at the 14.
That's another short.
Trying to cap this drive with the pass. Fires into the end zone. Intercepted. Oh, what a play. And he's wrapped up after a solid return on the pick.
Man, what a great break on the football. Nice job seeing it, squeezing. A lot of those defensive guys, man, they don't have great hands all the time, but you always remember your first interception. He'll always remember this moment.
First order of business, get out of this hole as the drive starts at their own 7-yard line. He'll keep it himself. And maybe he'll get back to the line of scrimmage, but no more than that. Behind the chains now on 2nd and long. The give on the option. Found a little space. He'll pick up 6 of the 14 as they have room to operate. And the Bobcats are at the line looking to convert on 3rd and short. Wide receiver going in motion. Wants to throw on 3rd. Going to try to pop one on the screen. He gets it past the first down marker, and a really nice job to set up that screen and move the sticks. Leaves it with the back. Finds a little bit of space, gets 3 to the 22. After the 3-yard pickup, they come to the line 2nd and 7. The play action fake. Zings it complete to the right. And a good job of coverage by that defense, just a short pickup. The Bobcats are at the line trying to move the sticks on 3rd and short. They're going to try to throw for it on 3rd down. And the pass rush is effective, and they tackle him at the 19. The number 1 job is to protect your quarterback, and they weren't able to do it long enough that time.
This offensive line, Reese, they've got to do a better job communicating pre-snap. Try and figure out which people on defense are going to be rushing the passer. Right now, this offense just looks confused up front.
And the Bobcats send out the punt unit. Excellent coverage that time. Didn't give him any room to set up a big return. First snap of this drive comes from the 32. They'll try it on the ground, running the counter. Just willed his way for a couple out to the 35. Got 3 on first down at 2nd and 7. Looking to fire. It's complete to the right. And just a short, safe pass play. They pick up a few. Picked up some yards on the last completion, but it's 3rd down. He's able to fight his way for a couple of yards, but it'll be 4th down and 3. Nice job to make the fair catch at the 16. Make sure that ball didn't bounce into the coffin corner. We've come to the end of the period. Ohio has the lead. And after that first quarter, let's see if these guys can get back in the game in the second. First play of the period, first down here. They'll come out on this drive and let it rip. All kinds of room to throw that one in there. That's the kind of play that can really get you going as they get it out to the 36. They're going to run it. They'll get it to the 48. No need to measure. It's a first down. Offense in a bunch formation. Wants to go up top on first down. And the quarterback will be slung down back at the 43.
Man, this offense, they gotta find something. They gotta get in the rhythm somehow. So far, no success, not protecting the quarterback. Really, the only good thing I can say so far is they haven't turned the football over.
This pass rush has just been relentless, and you can bet your bottom dollar they're about to bring the heat again. Second down, they'll go to the air. The throw. Right on the money. And he broke one tackle on the way to a solid pickup there. It's third down, and they have to get it to the 42 to move the sticks. From the gun, wants to pass. Catch in the middle, it's Sampson. He gets the job done on third down. They move the chains. It's at the 37. The give to the back. They'll pick up 4, 2nd and 6 coming. Kept it on the ground on first down, now back to the line. Here's the handoff. He is going nowhere. Stop at the line of scrimmage. A third down play coming from the 32 as they try to keep the drive going. The give to the back. Really tough run there. He got 4. That'll leave him a yard short on fourth down. And here comes the field goal unit. And he's got to find the right combination of distance and accuracy from the right hash and 45 yards out. Between the uprights, it's good. The lead now 6 here in the second. After that last field goal drive, they're set to kick it away. On the move from inside his 5. Just never had a chance to shake loose, and he'll be brought down at the 24. They'll get things started on this drive from the 24. Looking to throw on first down. Quick completion on the out route. Didn't pick up a lot there, moved it forward just a few. Line getting set on second down. Wants to go up top. Gets it out fast. They knock him down, but he's got enough to get it across the line and pick up the first down. Here's this offense with a fresh set of downs. To the ground with the back. And this one will be stopped for no gain. They got nothing on the last play. It's 2nd and 10. Back to pass. Got a man. A 6-yard pickup that leaves him with 3rd and 4. The 49ers come to the line on 3rd and short, hoping to keep the drive alive. Third down play from the gun. Using the quick game. They'll make the stop about a yard short of the first down. You say, why not throw it beyond the sticks? Sometimes you just need to give the punt team some space. That thing was down for a while, but the big bounce carried it into the end zone, and it'll be a touchback. They'll snap it from the 20 for the opening play of this drive. And that incomplete pass caused by the big hit on first down, second down coming. Plenty of distance between them and the sticks here on second down. They'll move the tight end. And back to the air on second down. Catch in the middle, it's Burton. They stop him almost immediately. Short gain there, and still a little ground to cover to pick up the first. In the gun, looking to throw on third down. Got his man on the right. That's the kind of play that can really get you going as they get it out to the 36. They just keep firing. Quickly out to the tight end. And they pick up just a few on that completion. So now it's 2nd and long. Looking to fire. Quickly complete. And the defense settled in to stop that one for a short gain. They've got it at the 41, 3rd and short, trying to keep the chains moving. From the gun, wants to pass. Looking down the middle. Complete downfield. And he was off to the races, finally tripped up at the 36. Out of the shotgun, they go to the ground. And there was nowhere to go, just stopped in his tracks in the backfield. Hit a little speed bump on this drive. It's 2nd and 12. Wants to go up top. Nowhere close on that one as he got drilled trying to deliver the football, and now they face 3rd down. From the gun, wants to pass. He'll take a shot. And it's a touchdown. It is also a play in which there is a flag on the field. Let's see what the call is. Maybe a momentary scare for that offense when they saw the flag. It's on, the defense declined, and the touchdown stands. They'll try to add another to their lead. And they did tack on the extra point. And for a quick update, let's go to Kevin Connors in the studio.
All right, guys, a little update on what else is happening in college football this weekend. Central Michigan needs to pick up the pace, but this puppy is far from over. And with this crowd there in Mount Pleasant behind them, I'm kind of banking on a comeback. They're trailing by 11 to Jacksonville State. We will be multitasking today, boys. One eye on that game, one eye on your game. Really the only way to do it.
And how about that one? Kevin will be keeping an eye on everything going on elsewhere. Back to pass on 2nd down. Finds the tight end. And he's knocked down immediately, but a good pickup on that play. And the 49ers come to the line on 3rd and short, looking to keep the drive moving. It's complete on the right side. Really nice job there to pick up the 1st down and get it to their own 41. Whistle blows. We are at the 2-minute timeout, and man, oh man, could these guys use a score to cut into this lead. He'll do it himself. This junior making his presence felt and making the stop after a short gain. The hurry up now, 2nd down, clock ticking. Back to pass. Got his man. Hauled down, but they'll move the sticks as he picks up the 1st down. Clock stops momentarily for the 1st down. They'll hurry to the line. To the air on 1st down. Here comes the heat. And they won't be able to connect downfield, looking for a big-time play. They're dealing with a 2nd and long. Power football with the run. Oh, better look out. They are on the move down to the 32, and they pick up another 1st down. The 49ers kept this drive moving on the ground, now back to work. Might as well give it to him again. And he finds some solid space, makes a nice game before the defense is able to stop it. Here's a timeout on the field. Tight game here late in the 1st half. And the 49ers in a good spot here with 2nd and short. Pulls and fires complete. Quick timeout from the offense to save precious seconds.
Nice completion here to this wide receiver, and you're going to see this receiver line up in different spots all over the field all game long. Defense has got to keep their eye on where this guy is because they know he's a big part of this offense's success.
And he was fortunate not to lose yardage on that play, able to wedge it back to the line of scrimmage. He'll pull it on the read. And they're able to shove him to the turf as they stop him for a short gain. Got to get to the line quickly for this 3rd down play. From the gun, wants to pass. On the shuffle. They make the stop about 4 yards short of the 1st down. We've got a timeout in the waning seconds of the half. Maybe a chance to get off a couple more plays. Their hope for a touchdown gone by the boards, but they'll try to put up 3 before going to the locker room. Splits the uprights. Good. That gets them back to within 10. That late in the half field goal always gives you a little boost going to the locker room, and they'll need to finish off these final few seconds and not allow them to answer. He'll bring it out from inside his own 10. Couldn't find a way to create that broken field as he stopped at the 25. No tricks here. Looks as if they'll just run it out and take that lead into halftime. That's going to wrap up the first half here, and now we join Kevin with the halftime update.
Thanks, guys. A first half that saw a little bit of everything there in Charlotte. And there's no more fitting place to begin than with this stud receiver and how he's dominated the first half. Some guys have the ability to elude and evade. This young man is a true three-level threat. Short passes, the intermediate game, and in the deep ball, he is a problem. And I don't think this defense has the solution. And with that, let's send it back to the guys inside Jerry Richardson Stadium.
The 49ers will line up to kick off and start the second half. The returner's going to try to see what he can get. And they'll get him on the ground as the offense comes out to start the next drive. Good news, I guess, a lot of room to work with as they start this drive from their own 15. Caught over the middle. It's Burton. And the defense had that one well covered. Just a short gain there. They'll run it from the gun. Not much there. Picks up a couple to the 22. The Bobcats really need to keep this drive alive on third down. They'll try to get it through the air. Can't make the connection on third down thanks to that tough, hard-nosed pass defense, and now it's fourth down. Punt is on its way. Fair catch called for and taken at the 30-yard line. Charlotte has the ball back. The 49ers offense will return to the field. Wants to throw on first down. It's complete to the left. He's brought down quickly. Minimal gain there. Still a bit short of the first down. From the gun, the running back looking for room. And the defense holds firm. No pickup at all on that play. From the gun on third down. Oh, they really could have used that catch there. Physical pass defense. It brings up a fourth down. And the 49ers will line up to punt it away. And he's going to get it up to about the 29-yard line before he's brought down. Let's see what they have dialed up as this drive starts from the 29-yard line. Complete to start this drive. Great pickup as they'll keep this drive moving, and they've got it at the 45. After the big play to start, now they are on the move at their own 45. Use the play fake, now to throw. Pocket breaking down. And maybe he'll get back to the line of scrimmage, but no more than that. Working well behind the sticks on second down. Leaves it with the running back. This junior making his presence felt and making the stop after a short gain. They're facing a third down. Wants to go up top. Flips it out on the screen. Nice job to pick up the first down, and they'll spot it at the 42. And the Bobcats are moving quickly down the field. Quarterback on the keeper. They'll rip off 8 on that play. It's 2nd and 2. Got a little work done on first down. Now back to the line. The give to the running back from the shotgun. Dragged down, but they'll move the sticks for a first down. The Bobcats kept this drive moving on the ground. Now back to work. They'll run it to the right. Oh, he's got a chance. He is going nowhere. Stop at the line of scrimmage. Didn't get much on first down. It's 2nd and 9. Now the play fake. Rushes on him. And the quarterback will take a sack back at the 36.
I think the thing that's so impressive about this defense, it's not just the athleticism and the ability to get to the quarterback, it's the variety in the ways they can do it. Sometimes it's a 4-man rush, sometimes it's a 3-man rush, sometimes it's all-out blitz. But with the speed they have, especially in that front 7, it has been a nightmare for this offense. They've been giving up sack after sack after sack in this game.
Under fire. He's going to take off. Oh, he just avoided taking a big hit with the slide. And this kicker is turning into old reliable. He's already knocked through a couple today. The ricochet off the left, upright and through. And now the lead is extended a little further. So they were able to put up a 3 spot on that last drive, and now the kickoff team out there as they prepare to put boot to leather. And he takes this from inside the 5. Nice job executing all of the assignments as they put a stop to that return at the 22. First play of the drive comes from the 22. Off the play fake on first down to throw. Finds his tight end. And an absolutely fearless tackle. Giving up size, still got him on the turf. Making sure they have good balance, keeping it on the ground. Works ahead for a couple. They'll stop him at the 27. Guys, this offense is already reeling down multiple possessions. Really need to cash in on this drive. Turning it on! Really good job to pick up a chunk of yardage and get it out to the 39-yard line.
That's another Charlotte.
Off play action. Makes the catch. Spins away from one. And perhaps a touchdown-saving tackle as he gets him down at the 37. Timeout called here by the defense. It's the first one they've used this half. This offense hasn't found the end zone yet. Starting to move, it's 1st and 10. Good hands in there by the defense to force the incompletion. Plenty of work to do here on 2nd and long. After the incompletion, they go back up top. Nowhere close on that one as he got drilled trying to deliver the football, and now they face 3rd down. Going to look downfield again. On target. Brought down at the 33-yard line as this defense gets a 3rd down stop. Now on 4th down, they'll try to come away with 3. He boomed it through a 50-yard field goal, showing off that powerful leg.
How nice is it as a head coach to have a kicker like this? It makes these decisions on 4th down so much easier. Just strut him out there and let him stroke it through the uprights.
Bringing it back. Didn't find any crease in that kickoff coverage, and he'll be stopped at the 17. First snap of this drive will come from their own 17. They'll run the RPO and throw it right. And this one will be stopped for no gain. Try to make up for some of that lost ground on 2nd down. Looking to fire. Got his man. And good coverage by the defense, just a short gain. Now the defense will try to rise up on 3rd and short from the 21. From the gun, wants to pass. Bought a little time, lets it go. He's got his man. Really nice job to get it past the sticks, pick up the 1st down at the 30. With the catch, it's Sampson. And that corner came in hot despite knowing that he was giving up some size. They'll give it to the back. And he was fortunate not to lose yardage on that play, able to wedge it back to the line of scrimmage. And the Bobcats come to the line on 3rd and short, trying to convert here. To the ground to try to move the chain. They tried to go smash mouth on 3rd and short, and it did not work against this defense. The Bobcats will send out the punt unit. Fair catch is signaled for and made. They'll mark it at the 12, and they'll start in a bit of a hole. Opening play of this drive comes from the 13-yard line. The give to the tailback. Oh, he got loose. Big pickup on the ground here to keep this drive moving and give them a first down. The 49ers want to pick up the tempo.
What a phenomenal job in the open field, breaking off the long run, and they're not going to just take their time and huddle up to get the next play called. They're right back at the line of scrimmage, going tempo.
And a good job in coverage there as they stop it after just a few. Backed up now, here's 2nd and long. Wants to go up top. Finds his man. Great pickup as they'll keep this drive moving, and they've got it at the 45. They'll have to hustle if they want to get off another snap before the end of the period. And you want to talk about his favorite receiver, it might be everybody based on the number of guys getting touches and a chance to show off their hands in the passing game. One quarter to go, and might we have the makings of a classic fourth-quarter finish. So first down, we'll open up the final period. Looking to throw on first down. Short throw to the sideline, picks up just a little. Oh, will they dial up on 2nd and a long way to go.
Brings up 2nd down.
Back to pass. And that's going to be incomplete. A lot of contact on the play, but no flags. It'll be 3rd down. And now let's see if the offense can bail itself out after the 2nd down misfire. Fires to the right. It's caught downfield. Oh, what a big play for this offense as they get it to the 33-yard line. They absolutely had to have that 3rd down to keep any glimmer of hope alive.
And defensively, that's exactly what I want. Make you get the 3rd down. The clock is your enemy. Multiple possession lead. That is right where I want this offense.
From the gun, leaves it on the inside with the back. He's going to lose a yard on that one. It's a makeable field goal from the 29-yard line. Let's see how aggressive they are on 3rd and long. They're setting up the screen. Absolutely nowhere to go as this defense makes a 3rd down stop. So here we are on 4th down, and this field goal kicker is going to face all the pressure in the world. And it's right down the boulevard. This is now a 7-point game. They'll kick it away after putting up a field goal on that last drive. Here he comes from inside his own 5. Nice job executing all of the assignments as they put a stop to that return at the 22. They'll snap this one to start the drive from their own 22. Give to the back. Just enough there to get it to the 25, a pickup of 2. After the 3-yard pickup, they come to the line, 2nd and 7. Looking to fire. Got it in the middle, it's Burt. Out to the 36-yard line after gaining 10 on that one. They'll snap it from the 36. They've got a first down. Use the play fake, now to throw. Quick strike complete.
This offense is not letting up, guys. They've got a lead here late, and they are still taking shots. They're still looking for explosive plays. This defense just has not had an answer here all game long.
They bring him down, but not before he's able to pick up the first down. And the Bobcats are on the move. Trying play action. Grabbed behind the line. It's Fleming. Good pickup on that play. It'll bring up 2nd and 4. The Bobcats with myriad options after that big pickup on first down. 2nd down, he'll throw it. The sure hands. It's Burt. And a good job of coverage by that defense. Just a short pickup. And the Bobcats line up trying to move the sticks on 3rd and short. They'll try to pick up the first through the air. Pulls it in. All the way down to the 25-yard line. They move the sticks. It's first down. The Bobcats come to the line with a new set of downs. Firing to the right, complete. He snagged it, but he'll be stopped short of the first down. Good, solid pickup on that play. Second down coming up. Rides the back on the option, the give. Brought down, but not before he bowled his way inside the 10 to the 8. And this defense has to step forward. Not only do they have to get a stop, they've got to do it quickly to keep that time from running down. And it's incomplete. If you're going to take a hit like that, you might as well hang on to the ball. Defense rose up deep in its own end on that last play. Now a second and long coming. And maybe he'll get back to the line of scrimmage, but no more than that. It's third and goal and third and long. Tight end in motion, see how the D reacts. They'll try to pass it in on third and goal. Touchdown, Ohio! Grab the short pass to put the 6 on the board.
And that is a drive and a score they absolutely had to have. Now making it a 2-possession game late in this one. It wasn't going to be enough to just play it safe, play it conservative, punt the ball away, and count on your defense. They were aggressive. They mixed it up, but getting that score, that is huge for their win probability now.
And the extra point is true, and they have a 2-touchdown lead, up 14 in the fourth. We check in with Kevin Connors. What's going on, Kevin?
Guys, let's get you up to speed on what's going down in this fun college football game today. Miami is running away with this one, thanks to an offense that may get its own 30 for 30 after this one.
The give out of the gun. They believe in that running game. Got 6 before he stopped at the 23. And the 49ers can really attack on this second and short. Wants to go up top. Punts it out of the air. He moves the chains, and they'll mark the ball at the 33. With the first down, they'll put it in play from the 33. Looking downfield on first down. Complete.
This is a fun spot to be in defensively. Like, it's late in the football game. You know they're passing the football because you're up a couple of scores. You pin your ears back. You try to get to the quarterback. Play smart. Make sure you rally to the football tackle and don't give up the big plays.
The 49ers are at the line looking to convert on third and short. Wants to keep it in the air. Just too much heat that time, and they knock him down at the 31. The defense coming up big there, and the sack is great, but the secondary deserves some credit too.
No doubt. When you can cover like that in the secondary and drop back in your zone and only rush a few, and you feel comfortable getting home, and they're going to get to the quarterback, that is a great feeling, and that's fun to be a defensive coordinator calling the plays.
Coach has no choice here. The offense has to stay on the field down. Looking deep down the right side. It's incomplete, and they desperately needed to keep that drive going, and they couldn't make the connection. They'll run the ball. The clock is on their side. An explosive play in the running game as he's got the first down. And the Bobcats looking to take advantage of this red zone trip. And he's brought down after a nice gain. Quick timeout called by the defense, stopping the clock to save as much time as possible for their offense. They'll try to get it in with the run. And he'll step into the end zone. Touchdown, Bobcats!
Yeah, and how about this offense, man, putting another drive together, getting in the end zone. And here's the deal. Going on the road, handling these conditions in game one, they've done a phenomenal job.
Lining up to tack one more onto that lead. And the extra point splits the uprights, and they're up a full 3 touchdowns, a 21-point cushion in the fourth.
Charlotte, 9.
Looking for those open spaces and opportunity. Couldn't find a way to create that broken field as he stopped at the 25. They'll put this one in play first snap of the drive from the 25. They go to the ground. Stop behind the line, he'll lose a yard. And the 49ers racing to the line in the hurry up.
And this offense on first down, man, they go backwards. And they've built a deficit, and they've been sluggish, and they just need something.
He's got it along the sideline. And the tackle is made, but not before that completion gets them 30-plus.
Let's go. We got some life. We made a big play, something to build off of. We need a lot of points, and we need them quickly. Time's running out. We're trailing big in this ball game.
And the physical play there forces the incompletion on first down. Behind the chains now on second and long. Back to pass. This one's complete. Powerful running as he trucks his way to the 28. The 49ers come to the line on third down, trying to keep this drive alive. They'll try to get the first through the air. Gets it out quickly. Got enough to move the sticks. First down from the 17. Passing game kept this drive moving. Let's see if they try it again. Off the play fake on first down to throw. Makes the grab. They'll get it down to the 8-yard line on that throw and catch, and the defense is backed up against the wall. Gonna swing it on second down. And the pressure was too much. They get him at the 15. Trying to get everybody set with the clock still running. On third and long, try to convert through the air. Got it. They will score. Touchdown, Charlotte.
Nice job by the offense going down the field, putting points on the board, but you're still down a couple possessions. Still need some good things to happen. You need your kicker to go over there and get warmed up. We need an onside. We need to score some points. We need a lot of things to go right to win this football game.
Now they'll line up for what they hope is automatic. And it's perfect. They go 83 yards on the drive. They're definitely up against it. Time running out, down 2 possessions. They'll try the onside kick. Ohio U ready to go back to work on offense. Firmly in control of this game. We'll see if they just try to run out the clock and get out with a victory.
Everybody on offense here should feel really good about their performance today too, David. They had a really good game plan coming into this one, and they went out and they executed at a very high level.
Yeah, lights out, and this game's over. I'm interested to see the philosophy now. Do we keep chucking the pill and keep trying to score points? Because it's the defense's responsibility to stop them, or do they just run this clock and say, all right, we did enough today. We kicked them in the face.
He's got enough for the first down, and that ought to be enough to put them in victory formation for the rest of this one. Here's this offense with a fresh set of downs. Quarterback's just going to take a knee. You know, there's no real reason to panic, but if you think about it, when does panicking ever really help? But certainly this was a bitterly disappointing outcome.
And you can look at a lot of different statistics, and I know we tend to overcomplicate college football these days, but guys, at the end of the day, it comes down to 2 very simple things. You can't turn the ball over, and you can't have penalties. You do those things, David, and it'll beat you every time.
That's the difference between winning and losing. It's the small things, but find those things that you need to improve on. Keep working on them. Keep developing. Those things you do well, dude, let's do those. Let's do more of those things more consistent.
That will put the wrap on things from here. For David Pollack and Jesse Palmer, I'm Reese Davis. You've been watching another presentation of EA Sports College Football.